Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the incredibly powerful ISO 26531 standard. We're really going to see how this framework fundamentally transforms the way we think about, build, and manage complex product information. So let me just ask you right off the bat, why is your product content slowing you down? I mean, if you've ever felt like managing complex documentation is just this massive operational drag, where every tiny product update means hunting down and rewriting the exact same warning label across 50 different files, you are absolutely not alone. That friction is exactly what we are solving today. Okay, let's dive right into our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the monolithic content trap, what a CCMS actually is, creating reusable components, building that single source of truth, decoupling content from formatting, and finally, how all of this absolutely accelerates your product launches. All right, part one, the monolithic content trap. You know, it's wild, but most product teams out there are still treating their content as these static, monolithic documents. It's kind of like having a massive carved stone statue, right? If you need to change just the arm, well, you got to chip away at the whole block. It's incredibly hard to update. But ISO 26531 argues for a total shift to component content. Forget the stone statue. Think Lego blocks. Dynamic, structured, highly reusable pieces of information that you can just snap together in basically infinite ways. Because honestly, staying in that monolithic trap, it's just a recipe for expensive inefficiencies. The standards business case points out that unstructured environments lead to cascading errors. Like, if a spec changes, you're literally relying on human memory to go hunt down every single document that mentions it. And the translation costs? No way. Translating a standard 500-page manual can cost upwards of 50 grand per language, just once. You end up paying to translate the exact same paragraphs over and over across different manuals. It creates this sky-high maintenance burden just to keep identical messaging updated. Your workflow is frankly built to stall. Which brings us to section 2. Enter the CCMS solution. So what exactly is a CCMS? Well, according to the ISO standard, a component content management system is a platform that makes components available for reuse and linking to build content objects. But practically speaking, it means deconstructing those giant monolithic files into highly manageable individual parts. It manages information at the micro level. Maybe that's a whole topic, a specific warning paragraph, or even just a single product image, and gives each of those pieces its own unique ID in a database. And I think this next part really nails the core philosophy of the whole framework. The standard states, the objective of component content management is to create content objects once and use them through linking mechanisms in multiple output formats. It's the ultimate write once, use many strategy. You write a hazard statement one time, you review it once, you translate it once, and then you just link to it anywhere it's needed across your entire organization. Brilliant, right? Okay. Let's look at section 3, creating discrete reusable components. This whole thing actually starts with structured writing. Unlike your standard word processors where you might just bold some text to make it look like a heading, structured writing enforces a strict, predefined organization using XML schemas. So you're totally moving away from unstructured visual formatting and moving towards strict semantic labeling. You're explicitly telling the system, hey, this is a task, or this is a prerequisite. And doing that is what allows these distinct components to be addressed, managed, and pulled individually by the database. The standards information model breaks things down into really granular layers. Right at the top, you've got the information type. Think of a task, a concept, or a reference. It's there to answer a specific user question. But that information type is actually built out of smaller content units, like a paragraph, a table, or a micropiece like a hazard statement. And if you go even further down, you get to elements, which specify exact words, keywords, or variables. You're literally building your documentation block by block. And that means you can swap out a single element or content unit without ever messing up the rest of the document. Moving on to section 4, a single source of truth. The ISO standard lays out this highly structured information development lifecycle for all these components. First up is content creation, which is where writers are developing the XML components. Then you hit review and approval, which the CCMS handles seamlessly through automated workflows and electronic signatures. Third is localization and translation. And this is incredibly efficient because, well, the system knows exactly which microcomponents actually changed. And finally, publication. Since the CCMS centrally manages this exact workflow, it absolutely guarantees that only approved, validated components make it out to the end user. So, why does this actually matter for you and your team? Ultimately, it's all about slashing risk and locking in absolute consistency. By maintaining that single source of truth, you completely avoid duplicated content. Plus, you centralize your audit traceability. If an auditor comes knocking and asks who approved a specific safety warning and exactly when they did it, the CCMS has the exact metadata to prove it. Most importantly, it strongly mitigates legal risks because you are guaranteeing that identical, authoritative messaging is published across every single output format. Let's jump to Section 5, Decoupling Content from Formatting.
Now, the absolutely crucial point here is this strict separation of concerns. On the first layer, you have the base content. That's your raw, semantically labeled XML data. Next layer up, you have the metadata schema, which is essentially the administrative and descriptive tags that let you actually search and filter your content. And entirely separate from all of that is the publishing pipeline. Visual formatting is driven entirely by style sheets, and they're applied only at the very end when you actually hit publish. Your writers, they never have to mess with fonts or margins again. They just focus purely on the knowledge.
And this separation gives you a massive cost and time advantage, especially when we're talking about localization. I mean, think about the old way, translating massive, entire product manuals from scratch for every single minor product release. It's wildly expensive and it is so incredibly slow. But the CCMS method, it uses internal link management. The system knows exactly which microcomponents were updated. It just packages those specific new or changed XML snippets, sends them off to the translators, and then automatically syncs them back into the system. It is a total game changer that basically cuts maintenance costs right out of the equation. And finally, Section 6, Accelerating Your Product Launches. Here is the ultimate payoff for everything we've been talking about today. Because your content is now modular and totally decoupled from its formatting, you can publish simultaneously to print, web, and mobile using dynamic pipelines. You can even filter outputs instantly. Let's say you need a manual just for the pro version of your product. The CCMS uses content variables and conditional processing to just filter out the standard features in seconds. You can even safely manage simultaneous product versions using branching and merging, pretty much just like software code. By breaking your content down into its smallest parts, you're actually speeding the entire enterprise up. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a question to help evaluate your own workflows. Is your content built to scale, or is it built to stall? If you're still relying on those massive monolithic documents, it really might be time to dive deeper into the ISO 26531 methodologies and start embracing a component content management system. It is definitely time to turn those heavy stone statues into dynamic, scalable building blocks. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I really hope this sparks some great ideas for your own content strategies moving forward.